Okay, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here for another Governmental Affairs Forum with our elected officials. My name is Susan Kirk, and I really do appreciate the fact that you'd show up today for a discussion with our elected officials on important issues that affect us here in the village. My name is Susan Kirk. I'm chairman of the Governmental Affairs Committee. I'd like to recognize some people here this afternoon. Our County Commission Chairman, Henry Cullen, is in the room. Our POA board members, Pat White, where are you, Pat? John Arguelles, and President Marty Ingrot. Marty, come on up and say hello for a minute.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad I changed out of my short and t-shirts. I didn't know I was going to come here and say hello. But on behalf of the board, I think this is a great turnout. Welcome, Congressman Burchett. Always good to see you here. And with that, I'll introduce Chet Pillsbury, our CEO.
Thank you, Marty. We are definitely honored tonight to have U.S. Representative Tim Burchett. He is an East Tennessee native, which is a wonderful thing, and not very often do we get to have native Tennesseans sitting in office. He grew up in Knoxville County and currently lives in the Gibbs community in Knoxville County with his wife Kelly and daughter Isabel. Representative, my apologies. That's why I said I apologize sincerely. Oh yeah, no. Can't do that. Anyway, he took office in 2019 after serving 8 years as mayor of Knox County. And he currently, during the 117th Congress, Representative Burchett sponsored 23 bills and co-sponsored 201 pieces of legislation in the House of Representatives, 3 of which were signed into law by President Biden. Bottom line, the guy's a busy boy. Truly is. Thank you, sir. Please, welcome.
Thank you, Chet. You can have this mic if you like. You can have that one. Okay. And so we're going to let you go ahead and make whatever marks you like, and then please allow plenty of time for questions, because all these people who are here have one for you. So thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for allowing me to be here, Susan. Thank you, and appreciate your friendship. I'll try to be brief. I know nobody got up this morning and said, "Dadgum, I hope I get to hear from Tim Burchett," and I hope he speaks for a long time. But I do appreciate it. It's good representing the village in Congress. This Congress, I'm focusing on 3 priorities: transparency, accountability, and responsible federal spending. All those things are kind of intertwined, and you'd think, why would somebody have to even bring that up? Because dadgummit, we don't have any of it right now. We are freaking out of control. The spending is, I don't care if you're a liberal or conservative. You know, we used to say we're spending our kids' money. Now I don't know, maybe we're spending our great-grandchildren's money, and we hide it, and they hide it continuously. I don't care who's in the majority. I'm generally in the minority because I just can't stand to see us throw this country away. I go into my office every day in Knoxville, and there's a 48-star flag on the wall, and that was on my uncle's casket, who died fighting in Europe, fighting the Nazis. And there's a picture of my dad on Okinawa. He fought the Japanese all the way across the Pacific in the Marine Corps. And, my mama lost her brother, who was too old to go, and then he went. They sent him home. They needed bodies. He ended up dying about 25 days after D-Day in what they called the hedgerows. He's buried over there in the D-Day cemetery over there. And, and Mama flew an airplane during the war. Got a cool picture of her. I'll share that with any of y'all who want to see it, in her airplane. She's a little country girl from Cheatham County, didn't have electricity till she's a senior in high school. And she's about 17 or 18 years old in this picture. And she's got her leg up on that airplane, and she knows what she's there for. I'm going to use a little rough language, but Kid Rock, who is a musician, I guess, questionably, but yeah, he actually is a pretty good musician. I've met him a couple times, and he used to have this thing. He'd say he was the American badass, and I'd say, no, I was raised by the American badasses. So my parents were good Christian folks. They weren't, I said this at both their funerals, they weren't the bumper sticker kind of Christians. They just lived it. And they, and Daddy fought, like I said, he fought the Japanese his whole life, I think, because to the day he died, you would wake Daddy up by his big toe, because I don't know, when you'd wake him up, you're not sure where he was. He might have been on one of those islands again. And so I take this job very serious. Every night I go out, I look at that dome on the Capitol, and I think, wow, Tim Burchett, Charlie and Joyce Burchett's baby boy is now a United States Congressman. I do not take myself very seriously, but I do take the job very serious, because I realize the sacrifice it took to get me there, and a lot of people in this room helped me get there. And some of y'all tried to keep me from it, so I probably should be grateful to y'all more than the dadgum ones who got me here. So anyway, but you got that one for free. Sorry, I kind of got off track, but I've always thought that we should have easy access, Americans should, to what's going on in government, and I've tried to be very responsive to that need. But I honestly don't think we can trust a government that doesn't trust its people. And that's what we're seeing right now. I think at a huge overstep. Again, I don't care if they're left or right, but some of the things that are going on in D.C. are just out of control. We're currently in what's called the August recess, and I've been visiting local businesses and everything around East Tennessee. I think a lot of my colleagues seem to take it as a vacation, but to me, I get less sleep and I work a lot harder when I'm home, actually, and I like it that way. I've been on what I call Tim's tours. I know the young people in my office come up with these names, so if you like it, I'll take credit. If you don't like it, it's one of those kids in my office. So in our office, I say, I've been visiting a lot of utility district boards and co-ops. I've been to KUB, Powell Valley, Electric Cooperative, Appalachian Electric Cooperative, South Bunk Utility, and just today I was at LCUB and Loudon Utilities. And I've also been visiting a lot of other businesses around East Tennessee when I'm not doing just these specific tours. Sometimes we'll just go along. I'll get in my head, I need to go on a barbershop tour, and I'll go visit barbershops. And it's a great way to meet people, and they're in barbers. If I had every barber in the state of Tennessee, I'd be your next U.S. senator, because those guys, they got half the population's literally their ear right there all the time, and they're wonderful. We visited some more plants down in Straw Plains, Imperial Transport, New Tazewell. We visited some new facilities like CGIT, Delivery there in Knoxville. We've been to groundbreakings. I always like politicians who always go and take credit for something they had absolutely nothing to do with, and we do a good job of that, apparently. But East Tennessee is a great place where families can come and thrive. I know a lot of y'all. I'm the only person maybe in this room that doesn't speak with a funny accent. So, matter of fact, I was laying on my couch in the office last week or 2 weeks ago. I guess, well, no, it's last week of July, and I was sick. I got bit by a spider. I saw a brown recluse, and I saw a black widow, so I don't know which one it was, but I went down to the clinic in D.C., and the doctor gave me a shot, and I don't know what's made me sicker, the spider bite or the shot. But anyway, I was laying on the couch, and we were waiting on votes to be called, and the speaker called, Kevin McCarthy, and he always calls me Sunshine. He said, "Hey, Sunshine." And I said, "Where you been?" And I said, "I'm laid up, man. I got bit by a spider." And he's all freaked out because he's from California. And I think he thought I was speaking in some kind of code or something. I don't know. But anyway, I said, "No, I got bit by this dadgum spider. I'm sick as a dog." And he said, "Well, if you can get well, right after votes," he said, "Arnold's going to be in my office." And I was like, "Okay." And I said, "Arnold who?" And he said, "Schwarzenegger." And I said, "Well, all right." So I go up there, and Schwarzenegger's not 6'5". He's shorter than I am. So anyway, that's kind of funny. Everybody sees this picture, and they go, "Wow." So McCarthy grabbed my phone as I was walking in, and he said, and Arnold goes, "Where you from?" And I said, "East Tennessee." I said, "The only place in America where people don't speak with an accent." And the picture is him just busting out laughing. These veins are popping out of his head. And y'all know who Dan Crenshaw is. He's Navy SEAL, and he's a buddy of mine. He goes, Burchett, he was telling me before Schwarzenegger, the governor, walks in, he said he's got horses like you got. And I go, really? What's he got? And he goes, he got a little small one. I go, miniature? Yeah, it's a miniature horse. And I said, show me that picture, Crenshaw. He had a picture. He said, I'll show it to you. And I go, that ain't no miniature horse. That's a miniature donkey, you idiot. And I said, you need to get that other eye checked. I said, it ain't the one with the eye patch. And he said, no, man, it's a horse. I'm telling you, it's a horse. I said, Crenshaw, I got horses and I got miniature donkeys. That's a dadgum miniature donkey. So I was talking to Schwarzenegger, and I said, what's the name of your donkey? And he goes, Lulu. So, anyway, I gave you all that one for free. But honestly, and like I said, I do not, but, it's funny, they'll remember you after that. I get into conversations like that with world leaders all the time, and they laugh, and then nobody will cover what, the points they were making. They say, what'd you say to, what'd you say to the head of Israel or whatever, to the head of India the other day? I was, because they get said the same stuff every time. These people come up to them and suck up to them. And I'm an American. I'm a congressman. I don't feel like it's my duty to suck up to foreign leaders. So that's just the way it is. But, well, thank you. I'm not looking, that's why we need term limits. Y'all keep clapping, I keep talking. It's like a preacher. You say amen a couple times, they're going to pass that offering plate again. So we'll take a special love offering when this is over with if y'all want to. If you're an Episcopal, raise your hand. We have any Episcopals in here? Ma'am, the Baptists will explain to you the concept of a love offering. Just get your checkbook out. We're gonna buy something. But we'll tell you after we get enough money, okay? But I want to tell y'all a little bit about some things, and I'm against a lot. I really am. I vote against a lot, and I take tough stands, and I catch hell. I catch hell from the speaker. I catch hell from the other members who cuss me out, and and I said, look, I'm a fiscal conservative. I represent a very fiscally conservative area, and y'all want to run in East Tennessee, come on. But if your constituents are okay with you spending more money than we're taking in, then more power to you. But we're not. Some things that I voted for that did pass the House, the School Not Shelters Act. We have a situation, y'all know, with the illegal aliens and illegal immigrants. This would prohibit public schools from being used to provide shelters to illegal immigrants. When I was mayor of Knox County, we had a problem. We were looking at putting solar panels on the roofs of buildings, and the schools had the flattest roofs. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it because you've got these folks coming in here. Are they convicts? Are they child molesters? Who the heck are they? And if they're illegals, we don't know who they are. And so they're allowing in areas of this country, the federal government was forcing areas to take illegals, and the only place they could put them was in their public schools. And to me, that just is, that's wrong. National Defense Authorization Act, I go back and forth on these things because of the spending, but they cut a lot of the stuff out that I didn't like. But it would prohibit the Department of Defense from paying for travel expenses to get an abortion. If the law says you can't get an abortion, then we should not be transporting American troops where they can and cannot. And it would prohibit them from paying for transgender surgeries and hormone treatments. I just think that's wrong. If you're an adult, it's what you want to do. I don't agree with it, but go ahead and do it. Just don't submit it to our children, but I don't want to pay for it as a taxpayer. I don't think that is a health need or requirement. Thank you. It prohibits the Department of Defense from hiring additional diversity, equity, and inclusion administrators. When I talk to Navy SEALs, and thank you. I serve in Congress with several, but when I talk to some of them, and they tell me that the SEALs now, some of them are spending more time in a classroom learning about political correctness than they are out on the rifle range. Folks, those are exceptional Americans that are called on to do some very bad things. And let's get this straight. They have to go into places and kill people and defend this country and stop things before they come here. So let's keep that in mind. And all this stuff, I always say, put the best player in, coach. I don't care if you're gay or straight or a purple unicorn, but dadgummit, if you can't do the job, we should not have some kind of equity quota in our military because those people are called on to do specific things. It also ensures military fuel providers are not owned by the Chinese Communist Party. These kind of things that are common sense. Why in the world would we allow that? But we're finding out that we have been. It established an inspector general to audit U.S. aid to Ukraine. We put $115 billion plus our missile defense system plus, I think the president has put an additional $25 billion. I vote against that stuff. It's not our war. Russia's GDP is somewhere between France and Canada's. I see another Vietnam on our horizon. We're getting into a war we have no business in. Our military intelligence, which I've stated many times, is sort of like congressional ethics. I don't really think it exists. But our military intelligence, remember, said Russia's going to roll over them in 5 days, and still they're just battling back and forth, back and forth. Putin's a thug. I don't wish him any good at all. I wish he was off this planet. But, we got to be, I think, if we're not going to, we told Trump he couldn't have $4 billion to defend our southern border because it would break us, and then we just went crazy on this thing. And I'll tell you one other thing, the corruption, and it's in both parties. You remember we gave them our missile defense system? Well, by rule, we have to replenish that missile defense system. And I would love for you all to start looking at not the contributions to their campaigns, but the stock holdings of members of Congress in both parties that profited from that little deal, from a deal that you and I didn't hear about, but then it hit the news and there was already a no-bid, multi-billion-dollar contract. So those things disgust me. There's other things. I had 2 amendments in that bill, which is kind of unusual, the UAP. I'm on this UFO issue. It's like I said in the committee, I don't think we're going to bring in a saucer or little green men, but when the and again, I'm not happy with so excuse my language, but the folks at the Pentagon, I call them war pimps because that's what they are. When they lose billions of dollars every year, have never passed an audit, and it's sometimes over 60% of our assets in the Department of Defense are unaccounted for. To me, folks, that's criminal. If that was your church, if that was this organization, if it was any other organization, somebody would be in handcuffs. But because it's our Pentagon, and we vote for more money for them every year unaccounted for, I'd like to know where it's going. These no-bid contracts, cost overruns, things like that, non-negotiated things, to me, are dangerous. And I'd fire General Milley. He'd be at the top of my list, but that's not even in my notes. You got that one for free. I got in there research and development contract cost sharing. It requires recipients of federal defense contracts for research and development to acquire 25% of program funding from non-federal sources. It shouldn't just all come from your and my checkbook. These passed the House and the Senate. I don't think it's been signed into law yet, but I think it's going to be. We're going back on September 12th. I'm hoping to interject some responsible federal spending. We'll be focusing on appropriations bill when we get back at the end of fiscal year. We're over $32 trillion in debt. National debt has risen by nearly $5 trillion since this president took office. We need to get back to a balanced budget. We could do that right now. We could balance the budget if we would just go back to pre-COVID spending levels. If you can imagine that, we could balance the budget doing that. I'm on a bipartisan fiscal forum to work together on the financial crisis, and those things are difficult, but it's got to start somewhere. We got to stop spending money overseas to conflicts that have nothing to do with us. As I stated, over the Ukraine issue. We give more money to the United Nations than any other country does, and to me, I think that's money wasted. We could use that money at home. Why do we keep giving money to people that burn our flag, hold our people hostage, and do things that I'm briefed on, that you all aren't briefed on, that are just reprehensible? Why do we endorse that with your dollars? It's beyond me. I'm not an isolationist. I'm more of a hawk, but it's rampant, and we've got to clean it up. So I'll stop there. I've talked too long, and I want to answer your questions, and I promise you they're all fair. I always remember the first time I went somewhere, and the teacher had prepared questions for the kids to ask, and you could tell they were bogus. But I said, I want to answer questions for the crowd, and the teacher got real nervous. She was over here. I remember it was at West High School, I think. And I didn't even represent the area. I was in the State House. And this sweet little girl raised her hand, and she said, "Are you single?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Good." She said, "My mama's going through a divorce, And I would love for you to meet her. And I said, well, honey, I said, send me a copy, an 8x10 glossy of her and a copy of her last W-2, and we'll talk. And the teacher sat back down. I think she understood I could handle the questions then. But anyway, I'm sorry, Susan. Go ahead, ma'am.
That's
And we'll
quite
go
all right.
get the questions. And I promise you, I know you might have some prepared people, but y'all
Right.
just
For
go.
those of you who have not been here before, let me just explain how we do this. There's a podium up here with a microphone. That is the audience mic. If you have a question for Representative Burchett, just take your place in line. We ask that you be as succinct and brief in your questions as possible to allow others their question as well. And then everybody will get a turn. So these are not canned questions. Everyone has their own question. I do have some prepared if the audience gets shy. So you know me, I don't hold back on questions. But Penny, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, Penny Mansko, Representative Burchett. I thought I'd give you a copy of my question.
It's
so you had
Tim,
it.
ma'am. You can call me Tim.
On July 29th, 2023, we wrote to you and all of the U.S. congressional Tennessee legislators to provide information about several Catholic laity organizations that form the Deposit of Faith Coalition. This coalition was established due to faithful Catholics, such as my husband and I, that are concerned with the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, the USCCB, use of U.S. tax money to undermine the nation. In the July 29th letter, we asked for your support in defunding the USCCB. So our three questions are, one, were you aware of this matter addressed in the July 29th letter? And the letter is there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Let me ask you, I'll get to the bottom of this. Was this dealing with hauling in illegals and human trafficking? Was that part of the deal?
That was part of it,
Yes, ma'am, I'm aware of. I'm not aware of this letter, and I apologize. You just wouldn't believe the amount of
Yep.
letters.
Actually, Noah from, I think he actually reached out to us a few weeks ago.
There's Jenny Lingenfelter in here, my person. There she is in the back. I lost her. Okay, we're going to double check this. She'll know to.
Okay,
Noah.
yeah.
I'll talk to Noah, but you go right ahead.
Okay, so,
I'm pretty sure Noah talked to me, but he calls me, daily with
Sure.
the boss. You need to know. But go ahead, Penny. I'm sorry.
okay, so that was our first question, aware of it, so somewhat you were.
And yes, I would cut their
Okay.
funding off. I would amend the IRS code.
So
Yes,
the
ma'am.
three
And
avenues-
they violated everything as far as I'm concerned, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, I always get mad at presidents, and I always think, and I always have it on my list, next time I run into one that's going to be president, and I'm going to tell them, I say, if I was president, the first thing I would do is call a news conference and say, I'm bringing a clean bill to Congress, and I'd name the sponsors who I'd already cornered in the office and put my finger right in the middle of their chest, and I said, any of these countries that are exporting kids, either child pornography or other things, I said, we're going to cut their funding off. We're giving you 1 week. And I've said, I'm going to bring the bill to Congress, and I've said, if you vote against it or try to amend it, I'm going to go to your district, and I'm going to campaign on this. And I do a 6 o'clock conference, news conference. I would bust their tails. 'Cause this, ma'am, I stay awake at night about
Yeah.
this stuff. It is
not
disgusting.
good.
What they're doing, folks, they're using your tax dollars, tax exempt status. They're actually muling children across the border for God knows what. Your mind, a lot of it's the sex trade, but a lot of it is just farm workers and working in factories. But it's still bad. I don't care if one kid's being abused. We need to burn them bad. And thank you for. I know it's tough being a Catholic to go against your folks, but sometimes I have to go against the Baptist church as well. So
Yeah.
go get them.
Illegal is illegal.
Yes,
Yep.
ma'am, and I'll tell you what, I will,
And that last question was.
I'll get some legislation drawn up to do just this, and I'll find out how it is and who's working on it. Okay, go ahead.
Yep, so the last, these three avenues that was addressed in this letter was having the funding cut off to the USCCB by Congress, amending the IRS code so that the USCCB is required to file public tax returns, just like every other religious nonprofit.
Yes, ma'am.
They do not at this point. And revoking the USCCB tax exempt status. So that was the 3 points that we had addressed in the letter.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the last one is, and this goes in line with your third goal, talking about responsible federal spending. Is this matter on the radar of Congress for the upcoming budget discussions in September?
I would say probably not, but I'd say
Yeah.
it's getting ready to be.
Okay, thank you very
And that'd
much.
be
We
me doing it.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you. And this is the kind of thing I like, because they give me a problem and then they give me a solution. And I love that. I've got a staff and they're excellent, but this cuts to the chase, so thank you. Go ahead. I always get letters from people that are 12 pages long, and I see them in the church parking lot, and I'm like, dude, why didn't you just tell me what you wanted? So go ahead, brother. Tell me who you are.
Mike McCracken, and
Mike.
I'll give you a solution too. The problem that I want to bring to your attention is with the Asian carp. And I won't bore you or the audience with lots of facts and figures, because I'm sure you're well aware of it.
Very much.
So my question to you is, with the Republicans being the majority power in the House of Representatives, will you sponsor a bill to temporarily close the Watts Bar lock until an electric barrier is built there?
Yeah, I don't know if you know about what I've done already. I got $31 million. That's pretty tough for somebody like me, appropriated in fiscal year 2023, and of course $4 million of that was for the contract fishing. I've been working on that issue. I don't know that that's going to. I just don't know that that's going to do it. We can attempt it, and I know there's been, millions of dollars for one of the locks, but they've been in line for 15 or 20 years. And so, yeah, I'll keep working towards it. I don't know if that's the solution or not.
Well, I mean, Minnesota.
But the problem you got with closing the locks is you cut off trade. And you got to realize who I'm up against there. I can attempt it. I can file a bill. But is it going to do it? Am I going to get anybody in the Senate with enough guts to carry it is another thing. Right. We can expend a lot of energy, or we can go after making sure that the electric, that's put in place. But then I also started or I'm involved with, I can't remember if I started or involved with an invasive species caucus, because you've got the pythons down in, and you got the Gulf Coast now with this green tide. I forget the algae that's coming in. I thought you were working towards me. And there's other things that we're working on. There's invasive species. The lionfish was another one that I've seen. But anyway, they're all over the country. Mm-hmm. I read today that it's $1.3 trillion is what it cost us. You got the mollusks up in the Great Lakes. Of course, we've got kudzu, which somehow we've adapted. I don't know. It just close your doors at night. It might steal your kids. But yeah, I'll keep working on it. I don't know that I can get anybody else to help, but that's an honest answer. All right.
Yeah, I know that Minnesota was successful in doing so. I'm not sure what playbook they were using.
At some point, I wish you would work with me on, they always want to develop a market. People aren't going to eat carp. It's like I told somebody maybe today or the other day, I said, you call a VW a Lamborghini, it ain't going to be a Lamborghini. It's still a dadgum carp. People aren't going to eat carps around here. I think the answer, if you start netting them, is fertilizer. I'm an organic gardener and farmer. And I think you liquefy them, inject them into the soil, and use them for fertilizer. But I'd rather stop them so we don't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, they've
It's a
already
nightmare.
harvested 25 million pounds out of Kentucky Lake and Lake
they still
Barkley.
got them.
And they still got them.
Yeah.
And if they get
They're
into
voracious
Watts Bar,
eaters. They grow to incredibly large sizes. They breed. They have no predator. I've seen these rednecks out there with the bow and arrow. I mean, that's cool. Looks fun.
Yep.
I'd be doing it too, but you're not doing anything.
Yeah. So if they get into Watts Bar, we're toast.
It's over. Yes,
It's
sir.
over. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pandora.
Hey, good to see you,
Good to see
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Pandora Vreeland, Asian carp, surprisingly. I'm going to see you in your office in October unless
This is
you
my
run.
shock face.
I'm going to see you in your office in October.
Yes, ma'am.
With Dr. Joseph.
Right.
So I know that you are a fiscal conservative, and I praise you for that, because you truly are. And I love the work that you're doing in D.C. and how well you've
Here
been
comes the
able-
but.
I'm going to get to the money in a minute. And how well you're able to get bipartisan support for truly bipartisan issues. which the Asian silver carp will be equally awful
Yeah.
to Republicans and Democrats around here. I also know that Congress is allowing earmarks again, and there would be tremendous pressure if you do succeed in temporarily closing Watts Bar Lock until we have an electric barrier. But if you can earmark the money to build an electric barrier, then it will be closed for a minimum amount of time.
Right.
Could you put that on your list? An electric barrier runs around $100 million.
I know what they cost. I'll have to look at Jenny over there, and we'll see how many solar panels we can string up for you, Pandora.
Well, seriously.
I know you're serious, and I'm serious too. I was just kidding about the solar panels. But yeah, we'll try. This session, it's passed. It'd have to be for the next one.
Right, I know that, and I take you as a serious man.
Yes, ma'am.
I did have the Army Corps of Engineers do an estimate of what the cost to shippers would be if
Right.
Watts Bar Lock was closed, and that would be an additional $10.5 million per year. And I think you're well aware of the economic cost to the 4 lake regions would be $1 billion a
Yes,
year.
ma'am.
So, all right, thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Pandora.
that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. And please give us your name.
Oh, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Michael Ann Keith, and I just want to say that my husband is a Vietnam veteran, and he's suffering from the effects of Agent Orange.
Yes, ma'am.
He can't be here, but he wanted me to say thank you for voting for the PACT Act.
Yes, ma'am.
Because-
Tell him I said welcome home.
Yes, thank you.
God
thank
bless
you.
him.
And that's coming
Thank you.
from 2 big Democrats.
That's all right. I don't care.
Thank you.
That's why there's a curtain on that list.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jeff McFarland, and thank you for taking your time here to visit with us today. I also want to talk about the Asian carp, and it's a serious issue, very serious issue in our community. We went to a meeting here a couple months ago, and one of the mayors along Kentucky Lake talked about the impact of the Asian carp in his community. It destroyed the businesses. It destroyed the economy. It destroyed the values of the homes. No fishing, no recreation, no boating, no skiing. It destroyed. He said, we were fat, dumb, and happy until the Asian carp showed up. What were we thinking? We need to wake up. The consequences are huge. They are severe. The gentleman before me talked about closing the Watts Bar Lock, and it's temporary, as well as a Fort Loudon lock, to put in barriers, multiple barriers. That's the only way we can preserve our waterways, our lakes, our rivers, and our streams. And I just ask you, we need someone, an advocate, to fight this, to represent us. Because if we lose this, if they get into our waterways, it's over. It's over. One female will lay millions of eggs.
Yes, sir.
And they hatch in the water. And you know, if you can be our advocate, if you can fight for us, we'd appreciate it. But the consequences, long-term, would be devastating. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Come right up, and remember to give us your name, please.
Hi, nice to be able to be here. My name is Maria Cardle, and this is not a topic I know a lot about, but it's something that most people here should probably start to become aware of if they're not. I heard recently that the Chinese, who are purchasing properties all over the place,
Yes,
have
ma'am.
recently picked up property here in Loudon County. What are we doing to monitor all of that, and how is that being handled in Congress?
Well, I was just made aware of that this afternoon, I believe, of the situation here, and I can assure you that that is a real issue in Congress, in the United States Congress. I don't know if it's much of an issue in the United States Senate because of the 60-vote rule. And I believe, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, this might scare some people, but I think our country's been compromised to the point of we allowed a balloon with 1800s technology to transverse this entire country, fly over. The head of the CIA and the chief of staff under President Obama said he would, in fact, I know the gentleman, he would, in fact, have shot it down over the Aleutian Islands. This thing has been allowed to transverse the entire continental United States, went over Montana, went over the missile silos that you all know about, and went over some of them that I know about. So that's just a scary point right there. It was not allowed to be shot down in Montana, where we have more people work in the Pentagon, if you can believe this, than live in Montana. So, and because of safety reasons, it was allowed to come across this country, several military installations, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, turn around, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, our backyard, and then fly off the coast and be shot down off the coast of Myrtle Beach because that's where it was safe. But our intelligence again told us that that it didn't have anything that recorded this anything, but apparently, it wasn't the recording I was worried about, it was the transmitting.
Right.
And that's bogus. That's a bogus response from a gutless Washington that's been compromised. And now we know that this White House, the Vice President, have received millions of dollars. His family has millions of dollars. They've created 21 different shell corporations. Yet we don't really have a Justice Department that's going to do anything about it. And I'm very concerned. The Chinese are in our education system. They're in our research institutions. Some of them are very good people, but just the other day, they arrested 2 Navy gentlemen that were compromised, that were arrested, I believe, for treason or espionage. And they were approached at their citizen, one of them was approached at their citizen when they became, the ceremony when they became citizens. So, yeah, it's a serious issue. And I take it very serious, and I don't know what we can do because, you have corporate structures. You know, they own a corporation that goes so far back. And they're doing, granted, most of them are probably doing it because it's easy money. They know they can invest a few $100 million and then make $1 billion. But the ones I have concern about are the ones that are getting near our military installations and the ones that are controlling some of our commodities like beef, which is one we ought to really be concerned that nobody's paying attention to, and certain crops and certain technology. We have Chinese, this was reported, so I can talk about it now, but we've had Chinese chips in our jet fighters that we're afraid, some people are afraid that could literally, if we were to get into a conflict with China, could they literally turn our jets off? And so, I think it's time that we get a president or somebody in the White House that calls in big labor and big business and says, we're going to lose everything. Let's put our differences aside. Let's figure out a way we can start making stuff in this country, because that's going to end it. And, everybody wants, we're rattling, I appreciate it. Everybody wants to rattle the sabers, the military sabers. I say unleash America's economic might, because ultimately that's what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And if we could say, hey, I'm not going to buy this junk from China, we're going to make it here. Or if we buy it from China, it's going to be fair trade, which it isn't now, because our politicians are gutless, both parties, man. They ring that cash bell and they all come running. Pavlov's dog. So, yeah, we've got a problem. Are we doing enough about it? No. Are we going to? I hope. And I'm going to try. So I'm clearly, I have a little bit more insight than some of my colleagues from a different angle. Daddy fought the Japanese all the way across the Pacific in the Marine Corps, 1st Marine Division. He was on Peleliu, he was on Okinawa. On Peleliu, his colonel was a man named Chesty Puller. Went to Okinawa. Then they thought they were going to invade Japan after that battle, but they dropped the bomb. Then they went to China, and they bring the Japanese out safely, and they ended up fighting the communists over there. So, and Daddy told me the sacrifices to China, how we just turned it over to the communists, and we got a real problem, and we've been infiltrated, and they're not going to take it from us, but dadgum, we just give it to them. We've given it to them. So, I'm sorry I went to preaching, but yeah, I'm on your side. I agree with you. It's a problem. And I'm going to look into this deal. I don't know enough about it.
Right. I guess one of the concerns I had from the brief reading that I did is that the way whatever it is structured, there's a prohibition from Americans picking up the land that they've bought. I don't know if that's accurate. It's just something quick that I picked up.
I'll
But
find
that
out.
would be something.
Will you give your name and phone number to Jenny Lingenfelter before we leave, and I'll find out.
Okay.
I've heard that before, but I haven't been able to find that answer, the answer that you're saying. It's
Right,
always been
that was my biggest concern,
Yes,
because if
ma'am.
those kind of restrictions are being put on our land all around the country in very serious places, that's a serious issue, so.
Maria, Jenny's in blue over there by the pillar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Gingrich?
Come on up, Susan.
I'm Susan Gingrich. I have a question, but a trip down memory lane. When I first moved here in 2015, I didn't know a lot about the political climate. I knew there was going to be a congressional election. I vetted the candidates. I decided you definitely were the better candidate. I took a lot of grief from the good old boys in Loudon County for picking someone that wasn't from Loudon County. But what I really liked about you was your record of fiscal responsibility, among other things. And the question I have for you is, I know you are still very frugal. And at one time, you told me that you did not belong to the Freedom Caucus.
Sure.
You still don't, right?
Correct.
All right, I want you to tell them why you don't.
Yeah, well, it's $5,000 a year, which is okay. I don't mind that. I'm just not a member of anything. I do my own thing. I don't like somebody, they have and they're all my friends, and I'm invited to some of the meetings sometimes when we're doing strategy and I told Jim Jordan one time, I said, you get me for free. And he said, what do you mean by that, Burchett? And I said, well, I vote more conservative than a lot of your members. And I said, and I don't eat your free chicken dinners, and I don't get a Dakota ring. And he laughed and said, well, that's true, but they've met with me many times. When they get a new chairman, they always want to go to lunch at the Capitol Hill Club. I'm just not much of a joiner, ma'am. I just, I do my own thing. And, I was in the Republican Study Committee, and that's a conservative bunch, sort of, but I look up on fiscal issues, and they don't vote conservative. And they had the lady in there wanted to talk to us about some education issues, and then they had, I'm not a golfer, what's the guy from Australia? What? Greg Norman was there speaking, and they put him ahead of her. And I said, what's the image that everybody has of Republicans? White old men playing golf. And I said, I'm out of here. And, because I don't like the Saudis. I don't like what they did to that American citizen. Press guy cut him up alive. They flew those airplanes into buildings. They killed Americans. And they're ringing the bell. They want us to come over here. And I walked out of that meeting. I said, I'll never come back, and I haven't ever come back. Because we are going to lose our country, and we better take it serious. Every time somebody brings the cash cow in, we just move, and there we are, and I'm sick of it. And so, I'm kind of alone a lot. I don't go out at night. I love my wife and daughter. I don't drink. I sleep in my office. Technically not during the day, but you might catch me dozing. I got a buddy of mine who calls me every Sunday morning. He always has a tip for me. He said, one Sunday, he said, you're probably one of the poorest members of Congress. And I said, well, I thought I was, but thanks for reminding me. And he goes, but you're definitely the poorest member of Congress from Tennessee. And I was like, well, I appreciate you brightening me up this morning. And, I come from family of public educators. Y'all pay me a stupid amount of money. When I hit the tarmac there in Washington, D.C., it's on till I get back on that airplane. And so, I take it serious. I don't really have any enemies. I'm working with, and this will make some people's head explode, but Jonathan Jackson, who's Jesse Jackson's son, we're working on a thing. I'm concerned about kids disappearing in our inner city, and we don't have records of it. That, as an American, as a Christian, that I lay awake at night thinking about that. We got to figure out what the hell's going on in this country to these kids. And I don't care what Hollywood says, something's going on. I've seen the numbers, and I've talked to too many people. So, I just do my thing, Susan. So, thank you. Now, I probably never will be invited back for another chicken dinner. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I guess that's a compliment. Anybody else? Sorry, brother.
Sure, we
Go.
have
And I'm sorry if
three
we're
more.
going over. I apologize.
No,
Come
you're
on,
fine.
Lou.
You're
Please.
fine.
Hey, Tim. My name is Greg Bearden from Lenore City. We've met a couple times. I'm your UFO buddy, and I congratulate you on the hearings that you had. I thought they
Yes,
were
sir.
fantastic. Anything that you saw that we didn't see during the hearing or the classified hearing that's going to keep the ball moving down the field? Or
Well, here's the deal on the UFO thing, UAP, whatever. Matt Gates, myself, Representative Luna, and Jared Moskowitz. He's a Democrat out of Florida. They're all Florida, and I'm Tennessee, oddly enough. We are trying to get Kevin McCarthy to form what's called a select committee. Because the one guy who, we have two pilots there who said, look, we've chased these things. We've got video of it, and we've seen the video, we've heard the audio. They're chasing something. It hovers for hours at a time. It takes off vertically at Mach 5. We have no explanation. I've seen things, I've been briefed on things. Literally, I've had people come to my house that are afraid of Washington that tell me, that show me things that you and it's hard for me to even comprehend.
Yeah.
And here's my point, again, we're not going to bring in Little Green Man, we're not going to bring in a flying saucer, but when our Pentagon tells us they don't exist, yet we have the best literally some of the best pilots in the world, not in the room, but in the dadgum world, tell me, look, Tim, I've chased these things, they're real. And then the Pentagon denies it. And then now they come with Chuck Schumer with a bill. Hey, why don't you let us take all the UFO files and we'll decide which ones we can let the public see. What does that tell you? There's more money, the war pimps, once again.
Yep.
And honestly, I go out every night and I look at those crazy stars every night. My dadgum dogs, Buzz, Roscoe, and Charlie, they won't go to the bathroom at normal times. It's 4:30, they're scratching. Atomic bomb goes off, my wife won't get up. I think she's hiding. I think she's just kidding me, and she makes me get up with those dogs. But I look at those stars, and the light from those very stars left there before the time of Christ. I mean, the vastness of God's great universe, are we the best that he can do? I think not.
An infinite,
infinite
universe.
I don't care where you're at on the issue. I do not trust a government that does not trust its people. Brother, they won't even release the Kennedy files. I've said, why don't you? Oh, we'd embarrass somebody. Who? Everybody's dead.
Embarrass the CIA, probably.
Yeah, well, CIA.
Anyway.
It would embarrass CIA.
Another quick question. I appreciate your time, sir.
Don't even get me started on the Secret Service and that bag of cocaine. I want to go.
Is anything ever going to happen?
I'm going to tell you no before you ask the question, but go ahead and ask the question.
The chatter around where, the House members, the Senate, is anything ever going to, do you think anything's going to happen to both the Bidens, the Hunter and his father?
No.
Okay. Well,
you got a Justice Department that's crooked.
Can he be impeached?
Yeah, we're going to hang an impeachment over his head, but what's that going to do?
I know.
It won't pass the Senate.
get it.
You're not kicking him out of office.
I know. It's
We need to be focusing on the budget.
blatantly corrupt.
Let's go ahead. Let's do the impeachment. Let's not have some overproduced thing. Just bring the evidence out. We can do it in a week.
Yeah.
I've seen all the files. I've been to Justice Department. I've read them all. Let you all see them. Let you decide. And then let's vote on it next week. Let's go day one, September 12th, and we're back. And say next week, whatever, give us 8 days, September 20th. We're going to vote on it. Dadgummit, and then let's do it. But let's get back. We got to get this budget situation.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, we're going to lose our country.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you.
Yes, Mike. And if you can, these will be the last three
I'm
questions.
sorry.
We'll wrap
I
it up.
talked too long. I apologize.
And also Chase Randolph's in the back.
Yes.
Okay. Congressman
Hey,
Mike.
Chase. Go ahead.
Congressman Mike Lynch. So my wife worked in the private sector.
Right.
She paid into Social Security. Then she went to work for the feds, took a break in service to take care of our son. When she returned to service, she was put in the offset program. As a result, her Social Security payments have been cut dramatically. And more importantly, as a result of her being placed in our offset program, she is not eligible to claim half of my Social Security. If she had never worked a day in her life outside the home, if she had never paid a dime in a Social Security, she'd be eligible for half of my benefit. Now, H.R. 82 was introduced in January. I see Congressman Fleischman is on the bill. I'd like to know why you're not on the bill.
I haven't even seen the bill. I mean, there's thousands of pieces of legislation. HR, Jenny, you got that? HR, what is it?
82.
I'll look into it, Mike.
And
I'll read the
it
bill.
has enough co-sponsors, sponsors and co-sponsors, to actually be eligible for a discharge petition.
Okay.
So you've got, it seems to me you've got an awful lot.
Signing on a
of-
bill, people sign on bills all the
No,
time.
I
I'm gonna
get
warn
that.
you. They tell, I signed on that bill, I wrote a letter, but knowing that it will never get to the floor. I'm gonna find, who's the sponsor? You know the number one sponsor is, the head sponsor?
I don't write how, I
Okay,
did
I
not
tell you
make
what,
that now.
we'll get a hold of it, and then make sure Jenny gets your phone number, and I'll get you an answer.
And I get it. I spent 27 years in Washington.
I don't mind, I'm all
get it.
about fairness. I'm all
Yeah.
about fairness, and that is a fair
Yeah.
situation.
And it seems to me with the number of federal retirees you got in your district, I'm surprised we're the first ones to bring it to your
You
attention.
probably have, I've got a lot on my mind.
I got it. I got
You
it.
get it to me, because honestly, I'll find out about it.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Give HR, what was it, 82?
82.
82. Rodney Davis? Rodney Davis is no longer in Congress, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
who?
And
Oh,
Jennifer, I'll
okay.
follow
Okay,
up
we'll
with you
find
on
out.
that.
Okay.
Yes, next.
Thank you, Congressman, for coming. My name's Fred Kennel, new to the Teleco, but retired from the Air Force, was an Air Force Academy graduate, and I noticed that one of my classmates spoke to you guys and was interviewed, and he couldn't define what certain genders were at the academy anymore, which is so sad. So I don't give money anymore to my alumnus, my school that I loved. I don't give money anymore to the RNC. I don't give money to anybody except for somebody I know, and I can give money to them directly. My question to you is, are you going to support the next time McCarthy or McConnell or Ronna McDaniel, any of these people in leadership, which I think of the people in suits and white, they have the red ties, they have these nice, beautiful suits, and they have white hair. The next time one of these gentlemen come up for leadership and we can vote them out, would you help support us and get them out of there?
If they're mixing up the genders, you're dadgum right. There's just two of them.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
Thank you.
And last question, please come forward.
Got two questions. We'll make them
Okay.
quick. I'll do it
All right,
fast.
I'll be
two
quick.
questions.
I'm Madeline Greer, and I have to tell you, your staff was awesome last October when we came to visit. So
Best in
thank
the
you for
country.
that.
No
Thank you.
question.
But I got to ask you, a gun reform is a big issue for me. I'm a longtime retired educator with the public school system, and now I'm back to subbing. And that is something that's near and dear to my heart, especially after the Covenant school shootings. And I saw what happened with the Tennessee State Legislature, which I know that's not your area. But nationwide, that's got to be something that has to be addressed. The AR-15s, they got to do something about them. They're not necessary. And my question to you is, my question to all of you are, we've got to do something about it. And I'm curious as to what your answer would
Yes,
be.
ma'am. Well, the Covenant School shooting, the little girl, she was a little girl. In my opinion, she was going through a sex change operation. She had some mental issues. She should not have been able to purchase a gun. I question, she lived in her parents' home. She had no job, yet she was buying thousands of dollars worth of firearms. There should be some responsibility at the home, and I don't think there is any easy answers, but, you know, since I walked in here, we've lost more people to probably to drunk drivers and automobile accidents than we have to firearms.
It's the guns. It's the guns. It's the guns.
It is
This
not,
does
excuse me, please, let's keep
I've got
order.
the floor. I've got
We
the
will
floor.
keep order.
This
We will
doesn't
keep
happen
order.
in Europe or Australia
Ma'am.
or anywhere else except
Ma'am.
in America.
She's
Ma'am,
all right.
you-
You're all right.
ma'am,
No, ma'am. I'll
he
tell you
has
what,
answered
ma'am,
your
I would
question.
like, sometime, why don't we get together and go to lunch and talk about it? I would love to. One of the issues, though, we are going to have to address is the mental health issue in this country.
That too.
And,
That
but,
too.
you know, but I caution you on red flag laws because I'll give you a scenario. You have a couple going through a divorce. The husband goes to the judge, who he happens to know, and says, look, my wife, something's going on mentally there. She's got guns in the home. He says, okay. He sends the deputies in, takes her guns, and then he goes and kills her. Now, that is a reality. I think, so red flag laws, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but you have constitutional rights regardless. So I think we need to address that, but we also have to address the mental health issue in this country.
Both.
Yes, ma'am.
Both.
Thank you. Thank you for your opinion. Thank you. And where did you get that shirt? Where did you get that?
It's an old one.
I know it is. That's what I was going to say. Do what?
Sleeves till
Yep.
football time.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Go get them. Go
Last
Balls.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you, ma'am?
And your
Kathleen
name, please.
Lewis.
Okay.
I have a question, but first a story to put my question in context. Last week I was at the dentist and in the waiting room, and two contractors in Lenore City who own businesses in Lenore City were discussing leaving money on the table. They had a lot of work, but they had no staff. And they both agreed that immigrants were the answer. Let them in, let them take the jobs, and the one man had one additional caveat. He wanted only immigrants who spoke English to come in and take the jobs. But they were both frustrated that there was a lot of money that they couldn't be taking for these jobs. Now, I've worked for IBM for 29 years, had many international teams, and also observed contractors building in Lenore City using people that speak Spanish primarily, but they always have a foreman who speaks English. The jobs happen, the work gets done.
Yes, ma'am.
Same in my case. What is your opinion?
Well, we had a system in this country at one time where it was a work visa that seemed to work pretty well. Right now, though, we're being taken advantage of on the border. I've been to the border. I don't go on these codels, congressional, they go to fancy places and get wined and dined. I said, I'll go, give me 2 days down there. It was hot, it was miserable. And, in the church, they say the Lord spoke to you. Well, the Lord spoke to me, and I'll tell you what I was doing. I was up against these big metal storage containers because Biden said he wasn't going to give any more money. And the governor of Texas brought these storage containers in, and he double stacked them to block the Rio Grande. And what you see everywhere, you see underwear, you see shoes, you see clothes on the razor wire. So what these folks do is they swim across, they carry a dry set of clothes in a bag, they leave them on and then we arrest them. Well, I walked up and there was 4 folks there, a man, obviously a husband and wife, and they had a little boy and they had a little girl, and the mama was holding the little girl. And I don't know if you know anything about me, but I married my beautiful wife, and my wife was a widow. And I adopted our little girl, Isabel, who is wonderful. She's 5, then 5, she's 16 now, and she's still wonderful. But anyway, and I remember I touched that little girl in the back, and I thought about my little girl, Isabel, and I thought, we are the greatest nation on God's earth, ever been. I don't care, you compare us to anybody, you compare us to Europe, whatever. I can share, I know enough about them. And I thought, we can do better. So, and now this is a small step, but I'm working with the country of Guatemala. Is that right, Jenny? Well, she's back there talking. Guatemala, I believe it is. I'm pretty sure it is. They have a similar belief system to us. And they're not perfect like we are. They're not perfect. We're not perfect. But I'm developing and I'm environmentally concerned. They grow bananas down there. And bananas have not in the fruit, but in the stalk. If you've seen these things, they're an invasive species around here. They don't grow bananas usually year-round because we don't have the climate. But the stalks have an incredible amount of fiber. And we have developed, and they develop a system down there where they can make it into silk or hair extensions or medical supplies and other things. And I'm working with some people, businessmen in this country, so that we can invest down there. They can keep the folks down there, because if they make $5,000 a year, they'll stay. And these Central American countries they don't have the workers. Everybody's left. Every military-aged man is out. So that is a small step. It's a solution. But if you magnify that across Central America, we don't deal with the corrupt warlords.
But how does that help these businessmen who need people here?
Well, that would relieve a lot of the pressure from it. That would normalize it. And because what's happened is, you know, they're coming in and they're consuming a large amount of products that they are going to have to produce. So that immediately takes care of that. But going back to the other, if we could get a system where these folks could work down there and work up here, and we had some sort of monitoring system. But right now, there is no monitoring system.
Right, because these are people, your own constituents, not making all the money they could be making because they can't get the labor, and there's the labor.
Yes, ma'am. But a lot of it, you know, but I'd like it to be legal labor. And the problem we have too
Well, it would
is
be legal if they could come in
well,
with an
there's a system
H-1
in
visa
play.
and work for these gentlemen.
There is a system in place, but it is a bureaucratic nightmare. It's created by somebody in Washington who's never had to employ anybody but a federal employee, and it's a nightmare. And we
But
need to
it's
clear
our
that
job
system.
to
Yes,
figure
ma'am.
that out,
And
right?
and a long story, I'm sorry I talked so long, but I'm passionate about that issue. But we are working on that, and I have been, but it's you know, anytime you say we're going to let people in this country, people flip out.
You should have heard these men. They were very frustrated. I mean,
I
right?
know they are. I talk to them every
Leaving money on the
day.
table ain't a good thing.
My degree was technological and adult education, ma'am. The trades are where it's at.
Right.
We've got to start encouraging these kids. We tell these kids they're going to go to college,
That's a long
and they're not going to go to
Thank you.
college. You can make plenty. If I had to do it all over again, ma'am, I'd be a welder. I love to weld, and I don't do drugs, and I would show up. So, anyway, sorry I talked so long.
So would you please show your appreciation for Representative Burchett coming
Thank you.
here to take your questions? Thank you so very much for being with us. And at this time, he needs to exit, and our next elected official coming up, County Commissioner Chase Randolph, please come forward. Thank you.
Please call me, 523-3772.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, brother. Nice looking suit.
And we appreciate your flexibility in this. As happens with elected officials, their schedules change and so forth. And so originally this was planned to have the two of them together, showing how even on the local level you had to deal with different levels of government. And it didn't work out that way due to changes in schedule. So now we have Chase all to himself, where we can again pose any old question we want to. So again, we're going to let him start with his own opening comments, whatever he'd like to present to us, and then we'll go ahead and open it up to the floor for your questions. And again, we ask you to keep it respectful, one question at a time. I will stop you after one. There are other people who have questions. You can get back in line again if you like, but we ask that you be respectful, you keep your questions short, succinct, so that answers can be provided and that other people can have their questions presented. So Chase, go ahead and let us know what it is we need to know.
All right, well, first off, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I know you all did come to see Mr. Burchett, you all came to see me. So I appreciate that. So I've been on county commission now for a year, my first term, representing First District here in Loudon. And it's been a great year. So some of the best things that came out is okay, is that better? All right, they should have told me that. So some of the best things that came out of this is the relationships that I made. I see a lot of familiar faces here tonight, and that's been good. I'm going to touch on a few of the things that we've done here the past year that I'm proud of. We distributed ARPA funds, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, and we took those funds and basically took half of the funds and divided them or voted on what we're going to do with them as a whole commission. The rest of the funds, each commissioner received $500,000 to use within their district. So Commissioner Jeems and I, he's the other commissioner that represents First District Seat B, we put our funds together. We have a great working relationship, and we thought we could be able to do more if we put our funds together. So we took $750,000 and we put that to the Highway Department, Billy Pickle, for road paving. And we were able to, it's going to be the most paved roads within the First District in Loudon County in a calendar year ever. So a lot of those roads are actually finger roads that lead into Tellico Village. If you've been on Davis Ferry, Bishop Road, Branch Road, so quite a bit of paving was being able to be done, and that's something that will help in the future budgets to come. Also, with the ARPA funds, we donated $100,000 to the Tellico Village Fire Department, and they were able to buy all new of the self-contained breathing apparatus, and that's something that benefits Tellico Village directly, but it also benefits all the other areas because, as you know, we have a mutual aid act with Loudon Fire in Philadelphia, so Tellico Village responds to a lot more fire calls than just in Tellico Village. So to be able to keep those men and women safe with the breathing apparatus, that was huge for us. I work directly with Mike Thornton, who has now become a great friend of mine, and we donated $20,000 to the Benevolent Police Officer Fund, and they were the first group to be able to help out the Jenkins family when we had that terrible, terrible tragedy happen with Officer Jenkins. So we basically replenished their fund, so, you know, God forbid something else tragic like that happens, they'll also be able to step in and help. I worked with Kevin Meyer through Kiwanis of Tellico Village. We donated $10,000 to them, and $5,000 that was earmarked for the ABC Bench program. And I'm sure some of you all are familiar with that. They take recycled plastics and they make these beautiful park benches. And we've already been able to place 2 in Loudon at the Loudon Housing Authority, and there'll be more to come. So that's some of the things we did with our ARPA funds. Another thing that we did as a whole commission with the ARPA funds, we were able to buy the jail a body scanner. So it's similar to the airport. I actually went up and took a tour of the jail a couple months back, did the body scanner. It's amazing. And that's something that's really going to be able to help our jailers stay safe, and also our inmates, and just the amount of contraband that they've already recovered due to that body scanner is huge. So I was really, happy to be able to do that. Another thing, we're working on our zoning right now. We've tightened up the zoning a little bit within the county to curb some of the overgrowth. And of course, we can't do anything about the cities and what they're going to do on their, strategic plan for growth. But within the county, we thought there doesn't need to be a house on every square foot. So we're tightening up some of our zoning regs on that. We just passed a $90 million budget, and happy to say that we did that with no property tax increase. And we are the 94th county out of 95 in the state of Tennessee for the lowest property taxes. So that's something that I think is really good. Yeah. So I'll take any questions you have.
Okay. No one's in line, and you're going to tell me nobody has a question out there for Mr.
Don't hurt my
Randolph?
feelings now.
So
I mean, Mr.
work your way
Burchett had
around to the microphone, and let me go ahead and ask you, can you explain how the county funds the libraries?
Are you speaking about the Tellico Village Library?
Well, just the basic question is, there's no understanding at all of how the libraries are funded. So how does the county
The library's
fund the
funded
libraries?
the same way like any other departments are funded. They come to us with a budget, and it goes through our budget committee and then to full commission to pass the budget.
Okay. So if that leads to any other questions, you take it from there. Yes, Susan?
Okay, maybe I'll get away with asking 2. Chase, do you remember how we met?
I believe we met the first time I ever came out to meet with Ms. Kirk here.
When you wanted to run for office?
Yes, ma'am.
And I was waiting to talk to the chief financial officer, and I think I introduced myself, and we had a nice talk, and you talked about your grandfather, how much you admired him, and that you wanted to run for office.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Answer this question, yes or no. Do you believe that you as a county elected official are above the law?
No.
There's an article today about the workshop that just happened. You remember the workshop where I spoke in favor of Pat Hunter and several others did? Okay. This article mentions removing Pat Hunter from the 2 county commissions she's assigned to. You're quoted as saying that 2 members of the Solid Waste Commission told you Hunter was unreasonable and that they no longer wanted to work with her. Do you believe that following the law, a commission's own policies and procedures, and monitoring a contract correctly to ensure it is followed and taxpayers get what they deserve is unreasonable?
I believe I said what I said because, she has caused a rift in the commission.
No, I just ask you to answer the question, please.
This isn't a debate. Please ask a question he can answer.
Go ahead, Jim.
We
Go
have to
ahead.
be fair to others who have a question.
I believe I'll always do what's in the best interest of Loudoun County and what's in the best interest of any subcommittees that we are the ones in charge of staffing.
Okay, well, if you believe following the law, a commissioner's own policies and procedure, a commission's own policies and procedures, and monitoring a contract correctly to ensure it's followed and taxpayers get what they deserve, if you believe that is unreasonable, which I certainly don't, I think we expect that here in Tellico Village too. But if you think that's unreasonable, go ahead and vote with Shaver and the others to remove her.
You always seem to refer to Shaver. I voted against Commissioner Shaver on several topics, so I'm always going to vote what I think is right. It's not going to be influenced.
Well, that's fine. That's what you should do. You're a county commissioner.
We do have other questions from
Thank you.
Commissioner Randolph. Anyone else from the audience? Because I do have some that have been submitted to the committee. Gary, you're next.
Does anybody drink out of this?
That's you. Sorry?
Huh?
That's yours.
Okay.
No one's drunk out of it.
How you doing today, Chase?
I'm good, Gary. How are you?
Gary Bush. Quick question, and this was to hopefully help the people in Tellico Village. The Economic Development Agency proposals for development in Loudoun County, in the whole area of Loudoun. You mentioned as far as the city versus Loudoun. What's your thought on they selected option 2, which if you do the calculations is clearly a 10-year growth plan for Loudoun County that'll equal about a population of almost 250,000 in Loudoun County. We're 57,000 today. So what's your thought on that and the impacts that it could have on this community and other communities in the county if the EDA does go through with that development plan as it's proposed today?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen that plan yet, what you're speaking of, but I will definitely look into it.
Because the packet I got at the meeting a couple months ago, and I went through that, there is development that this area, not this area right here, but the area where Little Italy and stuff like that is still part of the county. There's one of those, what they call the 15-minute, type of centers. And that area is one of those that's in that targeted development. So when they talked about that, I don't know, I don't think it's totally approved yet, but I
You're
was just
talking
kind of
about
curious.
proposed development that comes up behind our property, the village
Yeah,
property,
yeah.
yes. Mhm. Okay.
I mean,
If
really,
you-
the only
if you
way
can-
to control all that is with zoning regulations. Yeah, so, I mean, whatever it's zoned for now, if somebody applies for a rezone and planning commission doesn't think that, whatever they're proposing should go in there, that would be the first line of defense to stop that.
Well, I know there's going to be talk about EDA and that type of stuff coming up. I think that's my point is the EDA is pushing this. And the organization, I looked at the organization that did the assessment for Loudoun County. It's the same one that did Williamson County. Well, Williamson County is where I came from. And the growth rate in Williamson County was off the map.
That's why you came here, right?
That's the reason why I came here. So that's why I'm bringing it up, because what they did in Williamson County, it made everything unaffordable for people that were in there. And it just, give you an example, one intersection alone was going to house 22,000 people in one intersection. And I'm not talking a big intersection. I'm just talking, when you look square acreage, it's not big. You can walk that intersection in less than an hour, the whole thing, putting in a park, all the high rises and everything else going in. So that's my concern. That's the kind of development you're looking at, so.
It's definitely concerning.
Commissioner, would it be correct to say then that he needs to keep his eye on the Planning Commission's agenda and the issues that come before them?
Yeah, stay abreast with the Planning Commission agenda because they see everything before we do, and they make recommendations to us.
Okay. Yes, Mike?
Jace, thanks for being here with us today. I had two things I wanted you to comment on.
Good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you. Two things I wanted you to comment on. The first is we have 3 commissioners on the county board that actually represent us in Tellico Village. Not everybody understands that.
Yes.
Would you talk about where the dividing line is and who represents us? And then the second thing is I love living in East Tennessee because of low taxes, but I also love living here because we have a great community that's safe. We have a great sheriff's department, and a little bit about what you've done on the board to help our sheriff's department help our community be safe.
Okay.
Recently.
Yes, so Commissioner Jeems and I, we're in the 1st District. We cover all of the city of Loudon and some areas that branch out, and part of what branches out into Tellico Village, basically the Marathon gas station, everything to the left side of 444 towards Lenore City is in the 1st District, and everything else is Commissioner Cullen, who I see right there in his district. So there's one neighborhood passed? Okay. And then as far as the sheriff's department, like I touched on earlier, the body scanner for the jail, that's huge. They requested several more officers this year into the budget. We were able to get that into the budget. Some new cruisers, upgrading technology. With our ARPA funds, we was able to upgrade on the body cams. So now the sheriff's department's body cam, they all interlink with the Lenore City and Loudon City, and that helps everybody stay on the same page. And it's really hard to prosecute a case anymore without video evidence, which is unfortunate. So being able to have all the officers with body cams, I think, is a very, very big deal.
I have a question here that was submitted to the committee. I'll just read it for you. Many villagers watch commission meetings from their home computers, and we hear from several their shock at watching these meetings where some of the colleagues explain their opinions about the village. In a couple of cases, commissioners and residents view the village with a lot of animosity. I'm hopeful that that animosity isn't directed at you as our commissioner. But what can be done to help change that? Do you encounter that yourself in their attitude towards the village, and what can be done to change that?
Speaking for myself, when I was running for office, I made a point that I'm going to represent everybody equally. It doesn't matter where you live. Tellico Village is going to be represented the same as somebody that lives in the middle of the city of Loudon. And so I think I'm doing a good job of doing that. As far as other commissioners, I mean, they're independent. You can't really, control any of their thoughts, but I would definitely stick up for Tellico Village any chance I had to. I enjoy being out here, and I enjoy these people.
The village, District 1, is 20% of District 1 countywide.
Let me say this, too, on that.
Mhm.
I may be a little different than some of the other commissioners. I'm a little younger, and
A little?
so the village and I are about the same age. So, I don't have animosity, as some do towards Tellico Village. I actually learned to swim at the Tellico Village Rec Center. I learned to play golf at Toqua, so I got nothing but fond memories.
It's good to hear. Thank you. Question, please.
Chase, thanks for coming. I'm new to this area, and so I'm new to politics in general and how it's made on the county level. But what I notice as a general citizen is that when there's funds that come into communities from the federal government, maybe even from the state, there's always strings attached. And since we are a fiscally responsible state, and I think we're in the black in general, why are we even taking federal funds from anybody? And from your experience this first year, have you seen, were there any strings attached to the monies that we received? Because you may not be the right person for me to ask this question, but I think maybe the sheriff talked about all this millions of dollars that he brought into this community, and we were cheering him for it. And I got to think that there's some sort of a tie. Either it's the diversity, equity, inclusion, there has to be some aspect of that in it, or there has to be something that the federal government's getting for the money they're given.
I can speak directly on the ARPA funds, and credit to the previous commission before I was on there. There was all kinds of strings attached to the ARPA funds in the beginning. And basically, we just took our money and put it in the bank, and as it sat there, they started just taking away restrictions. And so once they did that, we were able to use that money the way that it should have been.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Based on that question, it leads into another question that was given to our committee. Are federal funds tied to the school's curriculum? Meaning, does DEI have to be part of the school's curriculum? Is it allowing the wokeness into the curriculum? If we take federal tax dollars, which it's labeled federal tax dollars, but that's all of our tax dollars, just collected federally.
Maybe in California, not in Loudon County.
Exactly. So are the federal dollars that the county receives for education, are they tied to federal strings as far as what is taught?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And we will have our two school board candidates will be on the election for 2024. And that's a good question for our school board candidates as well. So thank you for that. It is the county commission that approves the school's budget, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so it's just like you also approve the sheriff's budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so anyone else for the lectern? I'll keep on going. Okay, here's another one on the commission meetings and how sometimes 2 or 3 conversations go on at a time. So basically the question is, do you guys not know what parliamentary procedure is?
Some may not. I try to keep it as professional as I can on my end.
It can be difficult, it can be rough, but it has been noticed. And when you're first elected, is there any kind of training as a commissioner you go to?
I went to a CTAS training in Nashville, and I think there's some more coming up. But
Okay.
yeah, a lot of learning on the fly.
Okay, so you were probably given the basics in parliamentary procedure, but then again, any elected official can choose to use it or not.
My mom bought me Robert's Rule.
Did she?
A little Cliff Notes book of it, so I keep it in my
Good for you,
binder.
good for you. Well, when I was elected, there were 1 or 2 procedural issues that really saved a couple of things. So knowing them can really benefit a situation. Okay, any other questions from the audience? I'll keep going otherwise. We have,
How long is that list you got?
yeah, you'd be, well, Representative Burchett's was 3 pages. Yours is all 1 page. So, tell us about the estimated tax increase for the new school that's under consideration. Tell us about this new school and why it's so necessary and what it's going to cost. And
Okay, so the new school, all we've done so far as county commission is approve the school board to buy the land with their money. And now there's going to be studies done, on the land. I do think, this may not be popular in here, but we have schools that are busting at the seams. Something has to be done. How many trailers can you pull in to a school parking lot to teach our kids before something has to be done? So the new school that's proposed is going to be a 7 through 12, which would take a lot of the burden off of some of the middle schools like North Middle.
okay. And the
As
tax-
far as the tax increase, I'm hearing that it could be $100 million, $80 million.
So we probably are
Building a high school 7 through 12 is not cheap, and it would probably be, in the 30 to 40 cent tax
So
increase.
we are probably looking at our last year of no tax increase.
I'm not going publicly saying that.
It'd be hard to know how you build a school without one, but no, I won't force you into that. Yep, please. Mhm.
In your opinion, since Tellico Village is now paying more taxes than Loudon City or Lenore City, wouldn't it be wise for Tellico Village to incorporate to be its own entity?
That would be totally up to Tellico Village.
Don't you have an opinion?
The county would lose a large tax base.
Okay, thank you.
It'd be a lot of money on Tellico Village to do that, so you have to weigh your options.
Okay, and let's see, need my glasses on this one, it's a smaller type. Can you help us understand the situation regarding the requirements for alcohol sales at Little Italy? And why has it been so impossible for them to get a liquor license when the previous owner of the property had one?
The previous owner of the property let that license lapse. In the time where the license lapsed, there was a library that was built. Now the library falls within the county regulations of footage to a public gathering place. My personal opinion, Tellico Village Library is not a place of public gathering. You shouldn't be able to have a wine and cheese event at the Tellico Village Library, but Little Italy can't sell beer after 5 o'clock. I've been an advocate for it. I pretty much got us in a lawsuit over it. So
Okay.
we laid out a path where the owner could potentially get that license. He chose a little different route, pretty much by suing the beer board.
So again, it goes to paying attention to where you build, what's building around you, and what's the effect on each.
Yes.
You raise a good point, for the library to have a wine and cheese event, and yet Little Italy can't
Seems a
sell
little
it,
hypocritical.
so, Yes, I'm sorry, thank you, Penny.
Hi, Penny Mansko. Back to the question on the schools. Why are the schools bursting at the seams? Is there a reason?
I believe one of the main reasons is our cities, just the massive amount of growth. The second lowest tax rate in the state of Tennessee. People want to come here. I mean, show of hands, who was born in this room, who was born in Loudon County?
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
People move in, people have kids, schools get bigger.
Was the commission, you said that the budget has been approved?
Yes,
Okay, so was the sheriff's budget approved?
yes,
Okay, was he happy?
I believe so. I believe he was extra happy.
We'll be having him come soon, so that's good to know.
If he says different, he's lying.
Okay, let me see if there's something here. So Representative Burchett mentioned his UFO committee. Do you have any opinion on that?
UAPs, right?
UAP, yes, it is. It's a UAP committee.
I've seen the
That's right.
videos. I've never particularly seen one myself, but I'm not going to dispute what the greatest pilots in the world are saying.
Mhm.
I'm not necessarily saying there's Martians, but for an object to do the things that they're doing on those videos, it is very hard to explain. More transparency through the U.S. government would be nice.
Okay. A lot of people didn't know that the commission, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the commission did forward a resolution about the red flag issue.
Yes, ma'am.
For special session.
10-0.
And so, yeah, go ahead and spend a moment to, they may not realize you did that.
Yeah, we sent a resolution to the governor, just saying that Loudon County was opposed to the red flag law. I do believe, there's avenues to help with not necessarily gun control, but maybe we're pouring the money into gun control when we should be pouring the money into mental health.
And so, the last time the sheriff was in this kind of forum, he indicated the issues with mental health that tied into the drug issues and homelessness issues. And so I wanted to ask you, I know the sheriff has a plan in regard to drugs coming through the county and so forth. Is the commission helping him in any manner? And you must be aware of the amount of illegals that are coming through and so on, and we've tried to address that, especially when they are arriving in the middle of the night. But what can the commission do, or is there anything you can do as far as trying to take stand on that?
Personally, I would, if physically responsible, give Sheriff Davis anything he needed to be able to combat any of those issues.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe for the people, Mike, are you standing there with a question? I'm sorry, you take your question first. Come forward, please. I thought you had just changed position in the room. Okay.
Commissioner, recently the County Education Board issued a press release patting itself on the back for the number or percentage of children that met expectations in the last round of statewide testing.
Yes.
When you dig into that, meets expectation is the equivalent of a C. What does the commission do to ensure that we as the taxpayers are getting the absolute best out of the money that you are budgeting to the school board? Because in my view, a C, patting yourself on the back for having such a large percentage of our students just meeting expectations is just, part of my French, pissing away our money.
We were above most of the counties, but I do agree with that. That's probably more of a school board question as far as county commission goes. I don't know what you do. Raise teacher salaries to entice the best of the best, which I believe we have great teachers in our county.
Well, excuse me, Commissioner, but so I got sucked into K through 12 reform on a national basis back in '96. I learned more about K through 12 reform and what happens in classrooms and as a parent than I ever wanted to know. But we've seen across the country that simply giving the schools more money, whether it's for salaries or for whatever, and I can't speak to the fairness of the salaries that we're paying our teachers here, but it just tends to be a black hole. And I would commend you and your colleagues when you're doing the next budget to ask the question, what are we going to get for this?
Right.
How many students in the next 5 years are going to exceed expectations if we give you the money you're looking for?
Maybe just an idea, maybe we could form a committee with well-educated people like you, well-informed people on the issue to look into it.
Be happy to.
Okay.
This is my new home now.
Okay.
I'm an escapee. This is my new home now, and whatever I can do to support our home, I'm glad to do.
Well, Commissioner,
Thank you.
it's a great idea that you have there, because while you are held accountable as an elected official, by the same token, you should be holding the school board accountable for the dollars you allocate to them. You approve their budget, so it's a great idea. Yes, sure.
There was legislation recently that had to do with children, holding children back if they couldn't read or
Third
pass.
grade retention.
Yes, at a certain level. And commission had a resolution opposing that legislation. When I was at the meeting, I asked if that initial idea came from the School Board Association, and no one, including the director of the schools, would answer that question. But I don't, to me, it doesn't make any sense. If a child can't read and write to a certain level, what good does it do passing that child? And did you vote for the resolution?
Yes.
Thank you.
The legislature, this session, in fact, approved raising teachers' salaries. So we know that that's being addressed as far as the quality of the teachers. As it is now, do you know, are they merit-based, the teachers? Are they evaluated and merit-based?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so has it not been working very well? Or who's doing the evaluating? So
Not me.
Yeah, yeah. I know that we're not alone in that across the country, they're finding that children after COVID are not doing well coming back to school, and they're really deficient. And Representative Russell faced this question as to what's being done to try and address that, and if it takes extra classes, summer school sessions, whatever. But they need to catch up, because for those who think they want to go to college, or even for those who want to go to a trade school, you still have to understand the basics and comprehend what you read and be able to do functional math.
Hey, listen, I got a second grader right now, so we are doing a lot of reading comprehension every night.
Did you
And
notice a difference?
A lot of it starts at the house, and, you know, you can only do so much in an 8-hour day at school, teaching multiple subjects. Parents need to get more involved with their kids, and there's nothing, you can't make people be better parents. They are, that's kind of one of those, it is what it is.
Did you notice a difference with your own son during COVID when he wasn't getting to school? Was there a difference in what he was learning or how he learned?
COVID didn't affect him because we didn't shut down schools. So he was in kindergarten and they went right on.
Was the absentee rate higher during COVID?
I'm sure.
Do you know by what percentage?
No, I don't. I know personally, our child's absentee rate was good during the time. We were blessed.
One of the taxpayers' favorite times of the year is when we have our grocery tax. That's happened, last summer, it happened again this summer. And the question was put to Representative
It's still going on, right?
Russell. I think it is.
Still going on?
I think.
I'll be totally
Yeah,
honest.
I think
You
it's
won't catch me at a grocery
tomorrow
store.
is the last day? Yeah.
My wife
Is it till
she don't let me
October? Okay.
grocery shop. The bill goes up astronomically when I go.
But this question was put to Senator McNally and to Representative Russell about why that couldn't be done year-round. Groceries are a staple, a functional daily item, and so why is food taxed? Why can't, and can the commission, you did a
Why
resolution.
is everything taxed?
Well, if the commission did
I mean, everything, I mean,
well, yeah.
Trust me, Loudon County Commission doesn't have a say in if we're not going to tax the food in Loudon County.
Well, so if the commission did a resolution in regard to the red flag laws, would they consider sending a resolution to Nashville?
I think possibly.
I mean, that would benefit an awful lot of the people. And I'm not talking just the village here, but for Loudon County itself, you know, there's a real economic spread in the county. And an awful lot of people have a hard time making ends meet. Taxing food always has been something that kind of boggles. So are these questions standing here in line? No, I'm sorry. Mike? No? Okay. All right. So what is the commission?
Get some water. Okay.
So flipping the page, what does the commission see on the 5-year horizon?
I would say dealing with a lot of the issues that I spoke about, especially the large amounts of people coming into Loudon County, putting stress on our road system, putting stress on our sheriff's department, putting stress on our school systems. I think that's probably one of the biggest things at our forefront right now.
In regard to the question about the Gary Bush brought forward about future development that is or is not being pushed by EDA or other entities that may affect the village coming up behind the property, the planning board and so forth, could you explain for us how that works, how things come before you on the commission, the process it takes to go to the planning board?
Okay.
so forth?
You know, let's say somebody's got a 200-acre farm, it's been in their family for 100 years. Say it's right here on Ritchie Road. It's zoned agriculture, they're wanting to sell it, so they're going to have to go and apply for a rezone, and that would go through our planning commission, and they will give us a recommendation, which we can or can not go with. That's pretty much how that works on land going from agriculture to commercial, industrial, residential.
So if someone puts a request for rezoning on a parcel, is it automatically approved?
No.
Okay, so what's the basis for evaluating whether or not to change zoning on an issue?
A lot of it is just the fit, you know.
Continuity?
Yeah, you're not going to put a huge factory in the middle of Tellico Village. It's just an aesthetic fit. There's places for commercial, there's places for residential, there's places that need to stay farmland. That's pretty much how that
Okay,
goes.
we have a question. Go ahead and get in line.
Yes, Steve Packwood. A few months ago, there had been a significant amount of money had been allocated by the commission towards a water pipe. I think it was $500,000. It was actually withdrawn, and the funds were being held for some other purpose. Has it been determined by the commission as to what these funds are going to be used for?
That was in Greenback, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
I'm not sure exactly how. Each commissioner had the money, like I spoke on earlier, to do with in that district what they thought would be best for that district. So he allocated the funds for that, and something else may have came up.
So would those funds then go to an open group within the commission, or is
We
it just?
voted, we had to, in an open meeting, have to vote twice.
Yes.
On whatever they decided to do with the
Who is the commissioner of Greenback?
Bill Satterfield.
There you go.
Oh, okay, just thank you so much.
And
Okay,
was
thank
that his ARP funds?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Steve, that was part of the ARP funds?
Yes.
He indicated how he used the ARP funds he had been allocated. That was part of the ARP funds that Satterfield was allocated. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Because
does that help?
I see there's quite a few allocations from the ARP funds that kind of don't go anywhere. You know, I mean, I realize it's not necessarily just within the village here.
In the first district, we only have 25,000 left. Probably shouldn't have said that, somebody will ask me for it.
Yeah, but I understand that.
You're
but
not
one
gonna
of them
get
was
out the
hu-
door.
one
I know,
of them-
right?
But one of them was for 500,000, so where did that come from?
Mhm.
If everybody's only allocated
I
25,000,
thought I answered that.
maybe I missed that. Could you repeat that again, then? I'm sorry, I may have missed that.
So he allocated the funds for a water pipe.
Yes.
So he ended up withdrawing that. I think they went a different route with the water pipe that they were
Mhm.
needing to do. And Commissioner, I don't want,
On that funds, it was for a water pipe in conjunction with
TAS.
which is the utility company that the city owns.
Bless you.
Has Commissioner Satterfield allocated those funds yet? Okay. That's
Okay, so they're still
They're
pending.
still there.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's my question.
And TAS is T-A, what is it?
Tellico Area Services.
It's TASS though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I was coming up with the other S, I'm not
Okay,
sure.
okay. Susan.
They do the water.
Right, everyone knows them as TAS, and you
Yeah.
forget what the letters are for.
Yeah. Yeah. Von Orr, Greenback.
Right. Right. Okay, Susan.
My issue when I ran for county commission was the fact that Tellico Village paid a lot of taxes and we didn't get much in return. One thing we have never had is a Tellico Village representative on the planning commission. Now, Commissioner Shaver and our chairman have explained why we don't, but to me, it doesn't sound fair. And, you know, we care about the development of Loudon County, so why should we not have a representative on the planning commission?
I didn't say you shouldn't, so
You would be in favor of us having one?
I'd be in favor of putting the best people on the planning commission as we can to help Loudon County.
But you know, there is no one.
I'm not going to say, oh, a Tellico Village person deserves to be on it just because they live in Tellico Village. If they're adequately qualified, I think they could be an asset.
Well, I'm sure they would be as qualified as the other people on the planning commission.
Okay. Thank you for your opinion.
We do have a wealth of knowledge and experience in the village. And frankly, I haven't had anyone come to me and say they're dying to get on the planning commission, but if they do, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So, but that is something that.
Knocking the door down.
That is something that, I know there are people in the village who would like to be more involved within the county and don't know the process to be appointed or to be chosen for those things.
First thing I'd recommend is come to the meetings. Come to our meetings, meet us, listen in on the meetings, and find something that you're interested in. We'll be more than happy to put you to work for free.
Yes. Henry, come up, Henry, please, so you can be heard, because this is live and recorded, so we can all watch it again later.
First of all, it's Chase's time as
No,
mayor,
Henry, up here first, then start talking. We want you on the microphone.
Let me answer the question for planning and zoning for Tellico Village. 1983, Cooper entered into an agreement with TRDA for 5,000 acres of prime real estate. And in that agreement, TRDA, Tellico River Development Agency, gave the village the permitting and zoning requirement for Tellico Village. The ACC committee handles all of that. We do not have anything that comes for rezone from the village come through planning and zoning. Okay?
Okay. So, when there are vacancies on county commissions, committees, whatever, is it posted, is it noticed somewhere so that people could put an application in? What is the process?
Currently, we are in the process of updating a very outdated county website. And when we get this thing done, it's going to be extremely nice. And there's been some people that have worked really hard, and they have very recently determined the company that we're going to go with. And I think that would be great to be able to post things like that on there.
Wonderful. What's going on with the landfill? You will. No, this isn't your forum. This isn't your forum. Ask your question, please, and we'll get back to the question for him.
Well, it actually goes to the previous question about people getting involved and getting on a potential committee with the commission, because I am on the solid waste committee.
Mm-hmm.
So I got selected, I'm on that committee. So
Very fine representative.
So the question I had is maybe you can add some clarification, Chase, and from an educational perspective, with regards to the schools, okay? The school that's being proposed, you mentioned the city purchased some land, had to purchase some land. The growth, if
The
the
school board
did, okay. But if the cities are growing and the city's population needs a school, what's the process between, I know the state law, the county is responsible for schools, if I'm understanding correctly, but I believe there's at least one school within the county that is actually operated by the city, one of the cities. Is that
Lenore City
Lenore
School.
City. So that one happened that way, but this is another one to be put in the area of Lenore. How does that process work that, okay, you got one that they're running, the rest are operated under the county budget? How can you have both, is my question. And why would this one, if the city definitely has that growth and they need the support because that the schools are growing, that the force is back to the county to support that total cost?
The same way as our jail budget's going to increase when people move into the city. That's not a situation that's unique to Loudon County. Most places have city schools within their county. Being a county school, you can live in the city and go to the county school. So it's just, something we need.
I asked it because coming from Columbus, Ohio, they had what they called the win-win, which was always the city of Columbus won and the suburbs paid dearly, only from the fact that the city, they would operate the schools that were in, they'd do busing between the county or the suburbs and stuff that were in the county into the city schools or vice versa. So it was a win-win that, okay, I can send a lot of my city children to this school that's a higher rated school, and they can get that education. And if you don't do it, we're going to shut your water off, basically, because they controlled all the utilities. So it was kind of a unique situation. That's why I was asking. Every place is a lot different.
That's why you moved, right?
Huh?
To get away from situations like that.
That's why I moved out of Williamson County.
Is there anything that you can tell us about the lawsuit with the annexation that Lenoir City tried and didn't do it the right way? And where do things stand now and what's happening? How did we get where we are and what's going on?
Basically, there's an urban growth boundary. So within a city, to dumb it down, there's a circle around the city. Anything within that circle is in the urban growth boundary. If you're in that urban growth boundary, then you can annex into the city. Not forcibly, but if you request to be annexed into the city, you can. The land at the Bell West development and W&W Properties annexed into Lenoir City outside of the urban growth boundary. In my opinion, it was a land grab by the city, and we put our foot down and said that, you know, what you've done is illegal.
And
Will you reverse it? No, they won't. Okay, we're in litigation.
Okay, so if the county wins their lawsuit, does the city then have to pay the county's court costs? I mean, this is our tax dollars. People are concerned our tax dollars are being used in a lawsuit, which never should have happened. It's a shame. But
What's the alternative?
what's
Let
the
them do it, and
what's
we
the
lose our county.
alternative? But how do we recoup those tax dollars? Will the city of Lenoir be responsible for our tax dollars if they lose?
As far as funding of the lawsuit, the ARPA funds for the 5th District commissioners have allocated their funds to pay for the court cost of that, because they said that is the greatest concern within that district.
Well, true, if you have a both urban bound growth plan, it's there for a reason.
Yes.
So, and the process to go outside that plan would be to come to the commission?
Come to the commission. Also, the land has to be contiguous with the urban growth boundary.
And this isn't contiguous. So, okay. So we thank you for looking out for what it is you had to do. Anyone else have questions? We're going to wrap this up if not. And Chase, I want to thank you. Please show me your appreciation. Thank you so very much.